Hi everybody, old guy here. I don't usually read books that are on bestseller lists, at least I haven't for the last 3 to 4 years. That's because I'm finding that most of those books are all written by the same person, pretty much the same story, just a little change of locale or names. I mean, it's usually some very powerful, independent woman of means who can take anything that's thrown at her and overcome. The plot involves some kind of oppression by the white patrimony of some kind or other, and only the woman can overcome it. And it's usually filled with a lot of things that appeal to the west side of New York, but not anywhere else in the world. This one, though, caught my attention. Yes, it is a New York Times bestseller, but there are two stories simultaneously told here. One is a somewhat insufferable tale of discovery, and the second is a true horror tale of kidnap and murder. Obviously, the second one is more compelling, but the first needs to happen before the second becomes clear, so you kind of have to bear with it. So what is this about? Well, Avery Stafford is the near insufferable daughter of privilege, her father a senator, her family feared and powerful and convinced of its divine mandate. Avery herself is a high-powered attorney assisting her father to weather the reefs of his re-election campaign. To wit, his association with corporations that are responsible for god-awful elder care. Avery is helping hide the fact that her grandmother Judy has been placed in a high-class and rather expensive memory unit, while constituents are forced to place loved ones in inadequate state facilities that avoid scrutiny and accountability. Wouldn't do for the public to know the senator is using his privilege and wealth to avoid these same facilities, some of which his cronies run. While running some kind of interference for her father at one of these elder care facilities, Avery has a run-in with a patient who steals the dragonfly bracelet that her Alzheimer's-ridden grandma Judy had given her. And then the real story begins. Rill Foss, Rill, R-I-L-L, like a tiny little creek, the oldest of 5 children, lives on a shanty boat off the Mississippi River near Memphis with her beloved father and mother in 1939. It's a great life. Lots of friends and adventure, and she is loved and cared for and is dubbed the Princess of Arcadia, which is the name of the shanty boat. Then one night her father, Briney, has to take her mother, Queenie, to the hospital because the expected delivery of twins goes very wrong. So he leaves Rill in charge of the kids and the boat. The next day, police show up and take Rill and her siblings to the Tennessee Children's Home Society, assuring them they will be returned when their mother is better. And life becomes a nightmare. The children's home is a baby factory, and the blonde Foss children are just what clients are looking for. Rill finds herself battling the director, Mrs. Tam, to keep her brothers and sisters together as Mrs. Tam shops them to well-heeled clients, including Hollywood actors and corporate titans, keeping the Foss children under lock and key and using threats and violence to keep them in line. One by one, Rill loses her brother and sisters until there's only one sister left, Fern. Now, you can probably guess at this point how the two stories are related, and that is one of the annoyances of this book. There is no mystery. The blurb alone pretty much gives the whole thing away, so you know who's who and what's what before the story is actually launched. That does not, though, detract from the heart-wrenching story as you watch Rill's increasingly helpless attempts to save herself and her dwindling family. Talk about feeling powerless in the face of powerful elites who actually believe child theft is justified because them shanty people can't provide the kind of life that we sophisticates can. And yes, Avery is the privileged descendant of that attitude, but give her credit. As the story unfolds, she changes from someone seeking to protect her family to someone genuinely shocked and appalled by this little-known practice of the 1930s. Because this is a true story. Oh no, not of the Foss children specifically, but of the Tennessee home and Mrs. Tam, who were real, both of them. And Mrs. Tam kidnapped children from front porches and the sides of roads as they walked to school, and then sold them all over the country for almost 20 years before the state finally put a stop to it. Mrs. Tam died peacefully in her bed, never accounting for hundreds of children that disappeared and never accountable to the families she destroyed. And yes, the eugenicists of the time, and probably today, no doubt regret that this happened, but it worked out in better lives for the children, in most cases. Not the ones who were murdered and raped at the facility, of course, but hey, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. There are some confusing and obscure moments in this, such as how the sisters eventually found each other decades later, and who exactly is who, but the reveals are actually quite charming when they unfold. Wish I could say the same about Avery, who's somewhat obtuse and superficial. She throws her fiancé over for a momentary case of the hots. She insists throughout the whole book that she got to her position of high legal competence through hard work. But her definition and mine are somewhat different. Sure, she worked hard in law school, the one her father paid for, as well as the prep schools and the private schools and the horse lessons and the seaside mansions and vacations of privilege and all the tutors. She got to be what she wanted to be because Daddy made sure of it. Avery, got a little clue for you. Hard work is when you achieve your life goals without someone else paving the way. Especially when your forebears lost everything to make that happen. Old guy here. See you later.